long one. I was about to enumerate a number of areas of that record, but since my time is running out, I'll sit down. So thank you, and I fully intend to vote strongly against this bill at every stage. Thank you.
Thank you, member, and I recognize the member for Parksville Qualicum.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to thank the member opposite for his comments. I'm standing and speaking, acknowledging the great privilege it is to speak in this House, Madam Speaker, and I intend to speak briefly but strongly in support of this bill. I grew up in an environment, in a household that was immersed with teaching. It couldn't be more a teacher's environment. My mother was a teacher for some 40 years. She taught grade 1, and always when approached, and she was approached often to become a principal, to become an administrator, she said, no, it's most important to stay in front of the kids. And she changed lives, even at grade 1. My neighbors next door that I grew up with were 2 first cousins, and 2 of the 3 of them were teachers, as were 4 other first cousins. And then, as an adult, I have my own family, and indeed one of my children is a teacher, a very, very good teacher. She was a very gifted student in mathematics, won the mathematics prize in high school, and of course, as a parent, you have different aspirations, scientific, medical perhaps, but for her, teaching was a calling. And she's an excellent teacher, and she teaches in alternate school in Vancouver, a very difficult environment, but thrives it. So I got a call the other day, and I looked at my cell phone. It was a call from my daughter. So I put the cell phone to my ear, and a little voice, my grandson's 4-year-old voice, said to me, "Grandpa, negotiate, don't legislate." I asked him to the phone a second time, and he repeated the same message. So I take it to heart, and I'm going to speak in a positive vein on this legislation, which I hope is intended and will give us a cooling off period. We've been unsuccessful. It's been a fruitless search to find common ground, but I'm an eternal optimist, and I feel that we can yet achieve that. I want to salute and congratulate the Minister of Education for his tireless efforts in meeting with 60 school districts across the province to try and develop a dialogue, to try and find words where we could talk to each other and listen to each other's position. He visited both my school districts, 69 and 70, and visited most recently Vancouver Island University, where he talked to a graduating class of educational students. In a very open and candid discussion it was. With respect to School District 70, which he visited last summer, I want to interject the fact that education is extremely important to everybody in that community. We recently had the Chamber of Commerce Awards, they call them the Glassies, to recognize outstanding contributions to the community. And the Community Builder of the Year was Building Learning Together program, run by Debbie Robinson. And this is a program which acknowledges the importance of early learning. So the foundations of learning start very, very early. And they engage the community. They have some 200 volunteers helping on things like the WOW Bus, Words on Wheels, driven by seniors, and the whole community is engaged in helping this early learning development, and they're to be congratulated. So the Minister of Education was up there. I said to him, why don't you come and visit the Teachers Union in Nanaimo? I think for many Ministers of Education that would be a daunting challenge, to just be sort of tapped on the shoulder with no advance warning and dragged them into Nanaimo, School District 69, which hadn't always had a great reputation of cooperation necessary with the Minister of Education, but the Minister did. And we had a very interesting discussion. And from that springs my hope that we can develop common ground, that this legislation will give us the opportunity so that cooler heads can prevail, and certainly cooler heads must prevail. Because I mentioned the environment I grew up in, all of those cousins and my mother and my daughter consider themselves to be professional teachers committed to the profession of teaching. So I know that we can reach out to them. Now, one of the things that's on the table is the discussion of where the negotiations about regulations of class size. What table will these be discussed? Class size and other issues. And the teachers union in Nanaimo, Derek certainly was very clear about it. One of the issues that concerns them is the post and fill process. And we're committed to an open, transparent process. And certainly that is what they're looking for. And I believe this is one of the things that if we look at a local table, and I understand that in Surrey and other areas they've reached agreements on how to do fairly post and fill, that we can reach this accommodation and reach out to different school districts and start to develop a dialogue where we can build together on working on issues like this. Because their concern in the Nanaimo District Teachers Association is that basically it's unfair, it's somewhat arbitrary. Their concern is that someone who might appear, and rightfully so, as a bright young educational student, gets the job ahead of somebody else. They just don't know how these things happen. Well, the process has to be open and has to be fair. We need to have the best qualified, the best experienced person in all departments. I use to them an example of a mathematics teacher. You need a mathematics teacher in a secondary school who can be a leader of that department, and they didn't disagree. And they were open to the suggestion that this person might not have the best seniority, but they needed to have, it might even be from a different district, was suggested, but that you need to have the best qualified person to lead that type of department. So I'm sure that we can find these kinds of agreements, that if we take those kinds of issues like post and fill and say, you sort it out with your school district, build a model that we can live with, and from there we can find other ways to build on common ground and develop a dialogue. So these are some of the issues. The other one, of course, that's been, and I'll try to be fairly brief, but classroom size and composition has long been an outstanding issue among teachers and school boards. And that's one of the reasons we're putting forth the $165 million fund to help develop criteria and develop ways to come together, to develop criterion to develop classroom compositions, because classroom composition certainly is a strain and very distracting. Teaching in high school is a lot different than it was when my mother taught some 30 and 40 years ago. It's a much different ballgame entirely. So the $165 million fund will help us find ways to help teachers, whether it be developing higher training for learning assistants, developing more professional support for teachers, but helping them to deal with these issues. So these are many of the issues where I feel that we can develop common ground, that we can build together, and the word, dare I say, in the context of the discussion that I had with this union representative, it was his word, not mine, that we can begin to develop trust. That's what we need to do, Madam Speaker, and we need to work on things where we can agree and build on trust, and from there we can rebuild this relationship between us and the Teachers Federation, which has completely has crumbled completely. So these issues and others, I'm very confident. I'm an eternal optimist. I don't think I'd have run for this position if I weren't an optimist, and I am. And I'm imbued with with my mother and all the people who are so passionate about teaching that they want to teach, they feel compelled to teach, and they want an environment where they can be most successful in teaching. So I believe that this bill will give us the room to maneuver, that we will find that common ground, and that we will be successful. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member. And I recognize the member for Burnaby Deer Lake.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the previous speaker from the other side spoke about reestablishing trust. And unfortunately, I don't think this bill, which I will be voting against, will do that at all. In fact, quite to the contrary. This is a bill that furthers and continues and perpetuates a relationship that has been devoid of trust over the last decade or so, and I think that's very unfortunate. I want to talk in terms of context on this bill about my connection with public education. I was lucky enough to stay home with 4 children, and that's an unusual luxury for most people in this day and age as it gets tougher and tougher. But I could, when my children were younger, stay home with my children. And I spent a great number of hours volunteering in my community. And the greatest percentage of those hours that I spent volunteering in my community was volunteering for in the public education system. I volunteered at preschools when my children were going to preschools, and then I volunteered many, many hours every year at Nelson Elementary. First of all, I was the chair of the Parent Advisory Committee for years, or other positions, and I spent many years working very closely with teachers, with other parents, with principals, with the District Parent Advisory Committee, and as well with the board on many occasions, the school board in Burnaby. And I did the same thing at Burnaby South. So for about 16 or 18 years I was home with my children, and I spent all 18 of those years I was involved in education in some way. I also, at the end of that period, or towards the end of that period, I was so passionate about public education that I decided that I would run for the district school board, the Burnaby School Board. Somebody said to me once, you spend so much time at the board, you might as well run, you're here that much anyways. So I ran for the school board and was lucky enough to be elected in 1999. And I remember those 9 years that I was on the school board, the quality of the many, many presentations that teachers made to the board about the wonderful work that they were doing. And I was so impressed over those years with the great quality of public education we have in this province, but more particularly the very high quality, the professionalism, the dedication, and the caring of the teachers that we had in the Burnaby School District. And while all of us want to think that our own districts are the most wonderful, and Burnaby really is a wonderful school district, I know that there is that same quality, that same professionalism, that same dedication, that same creativity, that same pride in districts throughout the province. And that pride of the teachers was then reflected in the quality of what our students could do, because the students would not be there presenting their work, award-winning work, winning a speaking contest, or having an athletic achievement, or winning hundreds or thousands of dollars in scholarship. That would not have happened for those students if it had not been for those dedicated teachers that we had in the Burnaby School District. And I have to say, I come from a school district where there are challenges. There in the city of Burnaby, it's one of the highest recipients of students who are refugees. We have students coming from around the world, many of them coming from impoverished backgrounds, some of them coming from war, some of them coming with very difficult backgrounds and often psychological issues and challenges in terms of income. We have many students in those circumstances in Burnaby and in my present constituency. In addition, we have families that are very affluent, and students who had every privilege. And all these students are put together in the public education system. Often within one school, you'll have a diversity, and I can think of a couple of schools in my constituency where there is a huge diversity of backgrounds, challenges, opportunities, financial wherewithal, what those children came to school with, and what baggage they came to school with. And through it all, this wonderful public education system manages somehow to bring it all together and have success for most of the students that are in our province. And I think it's a huge testament to the public education system as a whole, but particularly to those teachers, and those teachers who have become administrators, a testament to the great skill and dedication of those people. And so education is the reason I got into politics. And I fundamentally believe, and I've said similar things before, I fundamentally believe that it is the most important public service that we can provide. It is the great equalizer. It is the way that those that come from challenging backgrounds can get a step up and say, I really can make it in this world. If I do well in school, it doesn't matter what my financial background is. It doesn't matter from what war-torn country I came from. If I can get a good public education, I can do well in public school, I have a chance in this world to lift myself up. And it's why parents from around the world want to come to British Columbia, many of them, is that they see in British Columbia a wonderful education system, and they see the chance for equality for their children, even if they come here having been doctors or lawyers in their home country and come here and they don't get a chance to practice their profession. They drive a cab, they work at minimum wage, but they will do it anyways because they see for their children that there is more opportunity in this country. And that is the context of the importance to me of public education and how we deal with our teachers and how we deal with this system that is so important to us. And unfortunately, I believe over the last decade or more, that the way we have dealt with teachers has been devoid of respect, essentially. That over and over and over again, a government has put itself in a position where it is at loggerheads with teachers and have done that again with this bill. And I do believe that it's absolutely intentional. I heard one of the ministers from the other side speaking on the radio over the weekend and was asked why it was that we didn't continue on debate, and there was no answer. There was no answer. We were ready to go to debate, but I believe that this government wanted to have a strike this week. Absolutely was determined to have that and would not have it any other way in order to ramp up the confrontation for whatever political reason they wanted to do that. The contract between two parties, as I've intimated before, it's not just about the terms of the contract, it's about the relationship that is involved. And as I have said before, this relationship, I think, is fundamentally broken because there is no respect for the teacher of this problem, and I think that's a huge problem. More than the contract itself is the lack of trust. So I find it quite ironic that the former speaker talked about building trust, because the actions of the government over and over again over the last 10 years have, if not been designed to, certainly has had the impact of destroying any trust that there might be. I want to read a letter, or part of a letter, a quote from a letter, a teacher in Burnaby who started teaching in 2002, because it talks about this issue of respect and a trusting relationship. It's from somebody named, it's a teacher named Sarah Purdy. And she said, "At my school, we have a large number of students living in poverty. We have food programs at the school that are essentially supported by teachers, using their free time to collect donations and bring to our school. We have teachers staying late at night to coach, to sponsor clubs, or to give individual support. No one entered this job for the money, but everyone deserves to be treated with respect. I have never in my entire career felt respected by the provincial government, my employer. Even though my students show me respect, their parents show me respect, and my colleagues show me respect, my provincial employer has never shown me any respect because I have only ever worked for the BC Liberals. I hope you will hold this government accountable. I don't want to work in an environment where students can't get the help they need and teachers are not respected by their employers. And again, that was signed by Sarah Purdy. It's interesting, we met, several of us, many of us met last week or the week before with representatives of our local teacher unions. And one of the things that was pointed out in the conversation with my local president, Richard Storch, was he said, did you know that there's a decrease, there's a decline in the number of male teachers in the system? Now, I think he was talking about Burnaby, but he probably assumed that the same was true across the province. And I think that's a very interesting and unfortunate fact. And apparently, and I've heard this before, that as the lack of respect as well as the remuneration in a profession declines, that what you have is you have less males going into it. Now, I'm not sure exactly why that is, but that does appear to be the truth, and that is what has happened in education. So not only are we creating a situation where we have lack of respect for teachers, we're also losing male teachers. And you know, we have so many single parent families where there perhaps isn't a male person, a role model at home. I think it's absolutely critical that we should have male teachers and more male teachers in our schools. Here, I want to quote another very short quote from another teacher that contacted me, referencing the past 10 years. She said, in 2002, I lost the right to have a say in how many students would be placed in my classroom. In 2002, I also lost the right to argue for support for students with special needs. And end of quote. So we know now that those rights that were taken away by the Liberal government on special needs support, the number of special needs, imposing of class size limits and so on, the things that were taken away from the ability of teachers to bargain collectively, that this was struck down in 2011. In 2011, the BC Supreme Court struck down what had been the Liberal government's amendments to teachers' rights because they were unconstitutional. And I just have to point out that throughout this period when the amendments were being made that created and increased the lack of trust and the poor relationship between the teachers of this province and the Minister of Education, that the person who was the Minister of Education through that was our Premier. And you know, I was a school trustee during this period, and I have to say that that period when our present Premier was the Minister of Education, it was characterized by confrontation. It was characterized by a lack of collaboration and consultation, not only with teachers, but with trustees as well, because I remember well that things were imposed on boards without discussion, things that were not good for education, and yet it was done in a high-handed and sometimes arrogant way. So it wasn't just the actual legislation itself that has now been found unconstitutional. That legislation and another legislation that was confrontational, it was the attitude and the lack of respect and lack of consultation, not only with the teachers, but as I said, with school trustees as well. And I remember going to many conferences or several conferences where the then Minister of Education would impose yet another thing without consultation.
Anyway, I'm too busy right now, so talk to you later. Bye.
Not good.